The 2025-26 NHL season is right around the corner, and as always, training camps become a stage full of questions, speculation, and tough decisions for general managers. In Toronto, it's no different. The Maple Leafs enter this new year with a deep roster, filled with stars and boasting depth that would make almost any team in the league jealous. But as with every franchise that dreams big, having too much can also become a problem. Players who will be starters on many NHL teams end up fighting for limited minutes here, relegated to smaller roles, or even at risk of being pushed out of rotation. Across the border, the Buffalo Sabres are preparing for another campaign while trying to shake off an uncomfortable ghost. 14 years without playoffs. For a city passionate about hockey, this drought is becoming unbearable. And while the team does have emerging talent, with promising pieces like Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahl, and Owen Power, the reality is that depth is missing. Consistency in the secondary lines is missing. That type of player who may not shine in headlines but provides a roster with a quiet balance is missing. The kind of presence necessary to survive the 82-game grind of the regular season and still be alive in April. And it's at this crossroads of stories that today's speculation arises. Toronto might be willing to part ways with some of its excess wingers, Calle Järnkrok, David Kämpf, and Nick Robertson, and Buffalo could be the ideal destination for one of them. We're not talking about a blockbuster trade. None of these names would change the course of a franchise on their own. But in such a balanced league, sometimes the difference between being out in March and competing in April lies exactly in these secondary moves. And that's what we need to reflect on. To understand why Toronto is in this position, we need to take a step back. The Leafs built their roster around an expensive, elite-level core. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander carry not only the responsibility of scoring goals, but also a large portion of the salary cap. When you have stars of this caliber, the space to complement the roster becomes limited. Despite still playing at a high level, utility players represents a short-term players capable of filling gaps and keeping the team competitive even when the stars are not on the ice. The problem is that Toronto currently has an excess precisely in that sector. Robertson, Jarnkrok, and Kampf are all useful players, each with their own qualities, but there isn't enough space for all of them to play consistent roles. This creates a situation where the team may prefer to trade one or two of these names, not because they are expendable, but because the roster as a whole needs adjustments. Cap space is precious, and every franchise has to make tough choices to survive a grueling season. Meanwhile, in Buffalo, Kevin Adams needs to act with a cool head. He knows he won't have many chances to bring in top-tier talent mid-season. Stars rarely become available, and when they do, the price in draft picks or young prospects is often too steep. But there's another way to improve a roster. Identify underused pieces on other teams and bring them into bigger roles. It's a strategic play. It's not about turning Jarnkrok into a first-line scorer. It's about recognizing that in Buffalo, he can provide quality minutes that he can't get in Toronto right now. Calle Järnkrok is a classic example of this type of player. At 32, he's no longer a developing youngster, but rather a reliable veteran. His versatility is his biggest asset. He can play both wing and center and contribute in special teams, especially on the penalty kill. Last season, he played 74 games, scoring 12 goals and adding 15 assists. Modest numbers, yes, but consistent. He doesn't hurt you defensively and can chip in with timely goals. In Buffalo, his presence on the third line could bring valuable balance. He's the type of player who won't grab headlines, but that coaches love put on the ice because they know exactly what to expect from him. David Kämpf, on the other hand, is that defensive specialist every competitive team needs. At 30, he's never been known for offensive talent, but his role is clear. He's a shutdown forward, the go-to man to neutralize opposing lines and ease the pressure on offensive stars. Last season, he had just 8 goals and 13 assists in 82 games, but his contribution can't be measured just in the box score. Kämpf is the kind of player who wins crucial faceoffs, kills penalties, and blocks shots. In Buffalo, he could anchor the fourth line and turn the penalty kill into a more reliable unit. It's the kind of reinforcement that looks small until you see the direct impact on the ice. And then there's Nick Robertson, the most intriguing of the three. At 24, he's still considered a prospect, but with a complicated history of injuries and difficulties establishing himself in the NHL. Last season, he played 53 games, registering 11 goals and 9 assists. His offensive potential is undeniable. He has speed, a good shot, and playmaking ability, but consistency has yet to show up. In Toronto, surrounded by stars, his opportunities are limited. In Buffalo, he could get more ice time, perhaps even occasional second-line minutes, and finally show what he's capable of. He's a gamble, but given his cheap contract, it's also a low-risk one. Now, let's imagine how each of them could fit into the Sabres. Jarnkrok would bring defensive stability and experience to the third line, someone who complements young forwards still searching for their identity. Kämpf would immediately reinforce a penalty kill, giving Buffalo a trustworthy player in high-pressure moments. And Robertson could be the wild card, the piece that, if he clicks, raises the offensive ceiling of the team. Each has a different role, but all of them would represent a step forward for an offense that currently ranks among the bottom 6 in the league. From a financial standpoint, Buffalo is in a comfortable position. With $5.3 million in cap space, they could easily absorb any of these contracts and still have room for further moves during the season. For Toronto, salary relief is also important. It's not just about shedding a contract, but about creating flexibility for future adjustments and ensuring that young talents like Matthew Knies have real space to develop. This is the kind of trade where both sides can win. For Buffalo, it's a chance to finally assemble a balanced enough roster to fight for a playoff spot. For Toronto, it's an opportunity to ease the cap sheet and maintain flexibility for the stretch run. And as the famous line from Breaking Bad goes, everybody wins. Of course, there are risks. None of these players will completely change Buffalo's reality on their own. Jarnkrok may not offer more than he's already shown. Kämpf might be seen as just another depth piece. Robertson may never reach the potential many once believed he had. But here's the point. These are low-risk bets. They don't cost much in assets. And if they don't work out, they won't jeopardize the franchise's future. On the other hand, if they do work, the return could be exactly what the Sabres need to finally end their 14-year playoff drought. And that's exactly what makes this rumor so fascinating. It's not always the blockbuster trades that define a season. Many times, it's a quiet move, the one that doesn't make headlines, that turns a team into a real contender. Picture Buffalo heading into March, fighting point by point for a playoff spot, and Jarnkrok scoring an overtime winner. Or Kämpf sealing a victory by killing off a crucial penalty. Or Robertson, finally healthy, going on a goal streak nobody expected. It's these details that write hockey stories. And for a team like the Buffalo Sabres, with a fan base starving for success, even the smallest improvement can be celebrated as a huge victory. In the end, maybe this is the moment Kevin Adams decides to stop waiting for the perfect talent and instead act with pragmatism. Because in hockey, just like in life, sometimes it's not about finding the ideal solution, but about seizing the right opportunity when it appears. So here's the question for you, the fan. Which of these three names makes the most sense for Buffalo? Kämpf's defensive reliability, Jarnkrok's versatility, or the risky but exciting bet on Robertson? One thing is certain. If the Sabres want to take the next step, they can't afford to pass up opportunities like this.